All right. Okay, I'm going to move on because we've got a fair bit to cover. All right, so the next thing I'm just going to cover is, the only thing I'm going to show you in this area is how to set the level of emails you get from LinkedIn. Some of you might find you get an awful lot of emails from LinkedIn. You can completely control how often LinkedIn emails you. So that's in this area here, communications.
While I mentioned, but while we're showing how to do it, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I get people saying I've added to your profile or I've endorsed you and so on. I really haven't got a clue about the profile endorsements and all that sort of thing. If you give everybody an explanation briefly how to use that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's an area that Justine will cover a little bit later because it's more about that's building your professional profile. But I will say that LinkedIn is quite clever. It picks up search terms that are trending on search. So those skills that it will throw up, like in those where it pops up and asks you to, do you want people to endorse for you? They're often trending skills on LinkedIn search or Google search. So, look at them and, unless it doesn't fit your field, just accept them. There's no real downside, But don't accept them. I mean, you're probably going to cover this. Don't accept them from people you don't know, never worked with, because I think that's a bit weird. And don't accept them if it's just not your area. Just ignore them.
I'll just quickly add to that, maybe rather than cover it again. I think it's really important to have integrity in the endorsements you accept or the endorsements you give. I think if you give endorsements away willy-nilly, it's going to undermine the endorsements that you actually do give. By the same token, the ones you accept, I think, should really reflect the ones that you think, yes, I've got a skill set in that area. I think the whole principle with using LinkedIn is that it has to be one of integrity and honesty, and that you're not just adding things to the profile or adding friends or contacts, to the profile for the sake of it. I think you've got to have your own personal sense of, does this represent me? Do these people represent me? I think that needs to be your guiding philosophy in using it.
Can you cull them after you've accepted them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you come, so email frequency, so in here, you'll see there's all these areas. So at the moment, if someone sends Justine an invitation to connect, LinkedIn will send an individual email. You can put all these things just in a weekly. If you just want to get one email from LinkedIn, you can put them all in a weekly summary email. Or turn it off altogether so you only see all that stuff when you actually go to the LinkedIn site. There's lots of different areas you can customise. So updates and news. Again, do you want to get daily, weekly updates? Groups, which we'll touch on a bit later. Do you want to get updates from your group discussions? So all these things are completely controllable. So how much you want it to kind of interfere in your everyday life. Okay, I'm going to look at now adding and managing contacts. Okay, so if you go back up to the top of your page, under the networks menu item, you go here, you can add connections. So this is great if you don't really have an established network on LinkedIn. You can go and ask LinkedIn to go and scoop up a load of contacts from your address book and populate your network that way. I will just stress that if you go and hook it up with your work email, it won't automatically go and invite everyone in your address book. You will be asked to select who you want to invite as a next step after this. So don't worry that suddenly it's going to invite everyone, including your grandma, to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Sorry, can I ask there, Mo? So it can go into my address book, which is not part of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's got the power to go in there and take stuff out.
Yep. Yep.
Them and the government and the tax office and everybody else.
There is a privacy setting that says it won't send invitations to those contacts without you electing to do so.
Okay.
Sorry, can I ask one more question? And it'll, from my address book, it'll identify those in my address book who are members of LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you able to add others to somebody else's LinkedIn? Like if I want to add James Hurd to Michael's...
No.
You can't.
No?
No.
Is there a suggest function?
Yes.
The other way, if you do have, you know, contacts already, established contacts, the other area where LinkedIn, as you go along, will keep suggesting people you may know. So when you come into LinkedIn, you'll see this names that will just suggest based on your employment history. So if you click on this,
Or your university alumni.
university, yeah, wherever you know your paths might have crossed. If you click on this, this is an endless scrolling button. It will keep going with names of people it thinks you may know. So that's really good to try and build your network. The other...
Sorry, if you know them, they're already on with you. If you
Yeah, these are names of
them.
people that are on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is saying, hey, you might know these people based on the information that you've entered in about yourself.
And what's the next step if I might know them? How do I deal with that?
Okay.
Sorry.
So here you can see these, you can connect. So yeah, so you click that and then they'll get an email.
That actually goes to, excuse me, a draft screen. It's not a straight, that one's not a straight connection, is it? There are some which will do a straight connection, but that one's where you can tailor or personalise a message. I'm going to cover this later, but my recommendation is that you tailor or personalise the message why you want to connect with that person. Obviously, if you know them, it's a hi, you know, haven't seen you in a while, let's get in touch. And I also recommend putting in a suggestion that, you know, can we catch up for coffee soon, particularly if it's a marketing contact you want to eventually follow up. But personalise the message. If it's someone who's not directly related to you, but who's a friend of a friend, say, hi, I see that we both know Bob. You know, I'd love to add you to my network on LinkedIn because we've got XYZ in common, or, you know, I think we've got XYZ in common. But let them know. I don't advocate mass spamming, generic trying to get as many contacts as possible. I think, as we were discussing, your contacts are like, you know, your friends reflect who you are, your contacts also reflect who you are, the people you associate with. So choose your contacts very, very carefully.
I'd also get into the habit of when you have a meeting these days and you exchange business cards, when you go back to your desk, send them an electronic invitation to connect on LinkedIn if you're not already connected, because it's common business practice now. And it's just, so if you're on terms where you can exchange a business card, that equates to being able to send them an invitation on LinkedIn. And, you know, I wouldn't feel, you know, surprised or whatever if I received an invitation from someone I just had a meeting with.
Can I also, sorry, just add, there is actually a LinkedIn rule that says you're not supposed to connect with people that you don't directly know. However, there has been a lot of debate on internet forums about whether or not you should be extending invitations to connect to second or third connections. And the accepted wisdom now is that you can do so, provided that you show or demonstrate the basis on which you're connecting.
Okay, so...
Could I just follow up on that? It therefore would not be inappropriate if after this presentation today we received invitations from you, Mo, and you, Justine, to link to you two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be aware.
And then it's up to you to whether or not you choose to accept them.
Okay.
The stalker thing you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
If I've come back from a meeting and I've got a few business cards and I have a look at their profiles and don't get to it that day, maybe revisit it the next day, will it come up that I've looked at them 2 times or just...
If they're a premium, if they're on a paid plan, yes. Paid plans will show frequency of visits to their page, search, you know, other things like search terms to find, you know, that you've used to find them. But on a, I think it's something like 90-something% of people have the free service, and no, it just shows that you visited their page. It doesn't show, it won't come up several times. You'll only appear once in the last 5 days, and it only gives a 5-day history. And even the paid plan only gives a 90-day. No, sorry, not 5 days, the last 5 people. On the paid plan, it's the last 90 days. So, so I'm just going to talk about, it's a new function in LinkedIn, and I think it's pretty good. So I'm going to mention it briefly today for you. It's like a contact management system. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with CRM systems, but so if you go into, so I'll just show you how to get there again. So network contacts. This has only been in the last few months that they've done this. It's pretty good. Again, at the top, LinkedIn will be suggesting people for you to connect with. But this is basically if you meet with someone, and I can imagine it's, you have a meeting with someone and then you might not contact with them again for a few months, and it's a really good way of, you can tag, how did I meet that person? Have they got a couple of children? When their birthdays are, just things that you might, if you've got to make a cold call to them, just generate a conversation, stuff that you might not remember. So, anyone here that I can pick on?
Is Andrew here? Andrew was attending today. He'd signed up.
All right, let's pick on me.
Should go down to David Guthrie. David is now a partner at Ebsworth,
Okay.
old colleague.
So all this contact management system here, these buttons, relationship and contact info, they are only visible to you. So, so under relationship, here you can write notes about, a conversation you've had, who they support the footy. Reminder maybe if I must give that person a call in 6 months' time. That will flag it for you, how you met. Tags, maybe you've worked on a big case with someone, you could perhaps put the case name in, if it's several people, an accountant from here, a client from there, and you can tag them all with that case, and then you're then able to go and search on that later. Here under the contact info, so it will be populated with the information that David's put in, but you can also, if you wanted to, add additional information. So you can put his birthday in, additional, his Skype address, his mobile, and that's only going to be visible to you. It won't be visible to David. Okay, so I think it's got a lot of potential in terms of, just as a customer relationship management system in that sense.
A question there, Mark.
Are there any worries about big data mining, or I feel really uncomfortable by the idea of people putting in details about me into an online database and vice versa. I feel a little bit, falling back to the details of other people. How secure is this information and what's useful?
I mean, it's very. LinkedIn, like Facebook, the hackers go for them, I imagine, fairly frequently, but they're secure. You hear about it in the press. They get hacked. I think Facebook has been hacked in the past. Facebook has been hacked. I've not heard of LinkedIn being hacked. I'm sure someone's had a go. But it's either, if you're either in it or not. There's very little you can do. You've got to rely, the security is very good. Otherwise, it's no value to people. People, if they're insecure sites, people would just leave and they'd lose their value in their business. I've got to shift you on. How am I doing for time? I'm just going to go on to search. So if you're looking for companies or people, there's just a simple search box in the top. LinkedIn has advanced search as well. I just wanted to say, this is great for looking for people or skills outside of your network. So, and it uses Boolean logic, if you're not familiar with that. So you just put and, or, not between your search terms. So for example, if you were looking for, say, a lawyer in Melbourne in insurance but not healthcare, you would write lawyer and insurance, not healthcare, and that would give you a list. And then down here you can put in located. So you'd write that in here, lawyer, and insurance, not healthcare. And down here, you know, if you wanted to restrict it by area, located in or near, so say we want someone in Melbourne. So within 80 k's, you can make that less or more, the case may be. So that's really good for locating skills outside of your actual network. It'll bring in people that are within your network first, and then people that are connected to by a second degree, so and then just generally. Okay. All right.
And you brought up experienced help for you. I think you said not help, is that right? Oh, help, yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, I should have just put health. But yeah. Sorry. So that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. So that sort of thing, you play around with it, and it's, you know, it looks for the search terms. So I'm just going to talk about groups now as well. So groups are, if you think of LinkedIn like, you know, a massive networking event, groups are like the breakout rooms for special interests of the main event, as it were. So it's where groups of different communities of professionals can get together who have got common interests or professions, and you can have them completely outside of your network. So you've got your network, and then you have groups, and members of groups, you know, they post discussions about topical things. It could be with your peers, you could be looking for another opinion on something perhaps that you're working on, or it could be target audience. So say you use accountants as referrers, you might join an accounting group, watch that for a while and look at, you know, monitor the discussions, and if there's something that's got a legal aspect, you know, you might want to chip in with something there, and that would really help raise your profile, perhaps start a relationship with some, you know, accountants in that group. So to find groups, it's under interests and groups. So there's thousands and thousands of groups on LinkedIn. So you can join up to 50 of them, and I recommend you do. I think they're really useful. I get lots of useful information from groups that I'm a member of in terms of new trends that are coming out in digital marketing. You can also, if your group doesn't exist, you can actually start a group. You can start up to 10 groups, and groups can either be open or locked, whereas you have to ask, can you join the group? So here there's only one, and there's two of yours there, no, 3, 4. Any particular group would be a good one to jump into.
I was just going to say, groups are a good way, if you've got a specific practice or niche area, groups are a good way of demonstrating your knowledge or experience in that in that area. For example, if you want to superannuation, you want to set up a superannuation discussion forum, you'd set up that group, you'd invite people within your network to join, you'd also invite people outside of your networks to join, you might invite industry figureheads or experts to join or comment. It acts as a little mailing list or a little newsletter, if you like. Rather than sending out a newsletter to all of your contacts, you can set a group, start discussion threads and invite people to participate. It's I'm finding people are using it as an online newsletter function, which is very valuable.
Yeah. So here I've just picked on one group that Justine's a member of, healthcare executives. So you see up here it's got over 100,000 members, and it is a locked group. So you see this little padlock here, which means that you have to apply to join the group, and then the group manager will accept you or not, depending on your details. Okay. All right. So I think that was it from me really. Anyway, so I'll just hand back over to Justine.
I'm aware that we're running out of time, so we'll quickly move on to the building your professional brand aspect, professional profile. Building your professional profile is about standing out from the competition. The aim is to produce or harness good content and share it with those with which you wish to engage. In terms of frequency, determine first consideration is how much time do you have to devote to posting. The second consideration is not doing it too often, as suggested by Mo. You know, Twitter is something you can do on a regular basis. A LinkedIn post is something that you should do on a very selective basis. It's also about targeting the content to make sure it's what your networks want to read. If you have a very broad or diverse network, for example, I have 2 businesses, so one is communications and one is law, you should possibly rotate your topics or the content to make sure that something of interest is popping up in your networks on a regular basis. I had a contact who and Mo's shown you how you can switch off someone's feed, but I had a contact who was posting on a regular basis the sort of posts that were probably more appropriate for Facebook. And to tell you the truth, they annoyed me. I didn't want to read them. I'd pull up my homepage and there'd be 5 posts from this particular individual. I ended up disconnecting that contact. I didn't realise I could hide it, I do now, but she was a very remote connection anyway, and I thought I felt that I didn't need that clutter on a day-to-day basis. So think about what you're posting and how often you're posting it. Persistence and consistency is the key. You can't just post madly for 3 months and then drop off. You have to keep posting on a regular basis, but a not overly regular basis. You also need to be aware of your firm's social media policy, if they have one, and if your firm doesn't have a social media policy, I strongly suggest that you formulate one. Social media policy lets all individuals within your firm know what is acceptable usage of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a personal account, but people will see that you are from a particular firm, so therefore what you're posting does represent the firm. You can't purport to speak on behalf of the firm unless you've been authorised to do so. Most social media policies will speak to that effect. You also need to be aware of the LIV's social media policy or the Bar's social media policy. Both of those, emphasise that you can't speak as if you are speaking on behalf of the Bar or all barristers. And the LIV, you can't profess to be speaking on behalf of all solicitors. You need to make it clear that this is your personal opinion or your personal view. Content is king, and again this comes back to the integrity of your profile and the way you present yourself. You want to target your content to suit your network. What is it your network wants to hear? What is it your network wants to know? What's going to be of interest to your network? Posting updates, I post updates about bills that have been tabled, cases or decisions. When I post, I don't do a very extensive case summary. I do a link to the relevant case, the Osley link, I'll cut and paste that, and then I'll do a 3 to 4 line summary of why this case will be of interest to my network. I also, if it's a very long case, will say, go to paragraphs 47 to 51 for relevant summary. Like equals viral marketing. I'm probably preaching to the converted here. I hope that I am, but a lot of people don't seem to yet understand that liking a post takes that post from that person's network and sends it into your network. By way of example, I'll go back to my profile. Last Sunday morning, I sent a post looking forward to presenting with Mo at Michael Green's CPD breakfast seminar this morning. You can all see that diagram to the right. In my immediate network, it had 28 views. Of that immediate network, which is I think 279 or so people at the moment, 3 people liked that post, and so that post went into their networks. One of them, Nikki Mollard, who's a barrister on Michael's list, has a contact database of over 500 people. She's also a law lecturer at Monash and has a lot of young lawyers, students following her. So it's gone into 3 networks of people with very big contacts and received 200 views in those networks. So it's gone from 28 by being liked 3 times to 200. So if you post an article that your colleagues like, simply by, say, Debbie Beaton, if I clicked on Debbie, I like that, that will then come into all of my 279 contacts will then see what I've liked. So that is viral marketing. That's the power of social media and getting your message out beyond your immediate networks. Anything you want to add on that topic, Mark?
Yeah, just I think as you said, so it's not that you like what's being necessarily being said, it's all about, you know, just spreading it out to your network.
Yeah.
Pushing that out.
For example, I think the recent fundraising activities for the people who were affected by Typhoon Haiyan, I think it's called, by liking, you know, UNICEF and Save the Children are two organisations I follow. I liked both of their posts, which were attempts at fundraising. I'm obviously not liking the fact that there's been this disaster. I'm liking the information that's being sent out to try and raise awareness through my networks and networks beyond. Sorry?
The infographic about who's viewed the update and the likes and the expansion of the segment, is that visible on on the standard user's profile, etc.?
Yes.
You can get that for every post and update you've done?
Yep. You can also see, why isn't it showing how? Oh, because I'm on my homepage, aren't I? When you go into your profile, I'm looking for the user frequency. You can see how often people have viewed your profile. I'll come back to that. We'll move on to recommendations because this is something that I've had a few questions with. Recommendations are a great way of illustrating your achievements and demonstrating your credibility. I found this was particularly pertinent when I started up my own practice earlier this year, having only spent 7 months as special counsel at Minter Ellison. I knew the short period of that employment may have raised concerns to my network over whether or not I had the goods. So I saw some recommendations from people that I had worked with. There is, I'll do it here. You go into privacy and settings. Again, like your contacts, LinkedIn give you manage your recommendations down here. LinkedIn will give you all right, let's go into, say for example, ask to be recommended. You'd put in your connections email address in here, and these have to be established connections obviously, not people who you are not yet connected with. And then you have the opportunity to create your message. Again, they give you a standard paragraph. I prefer to use a personalised message referring to the reason why you're seeking the recommendation. For people who are asking clients, you know, thanks for, sorry, let me start again. Given that most of you will be optimising your LinkedIn profiles, now is a good time for you to say, I'm just getting my LinkedIn profile together. I was wondering if you could provide a recommendation on my handling of matter XYZ, or you know, working with me on XYZ project. Now is a really good time to do that. Thanks in advance for helping me out, and then you press send, and that'll send the recommendation out to them, and the person who, the request for recommendation, and the person who receives that will then write your recommendation. I'll show you I won't go through the recommendations, but it will then appear on your profile under skills and expertise, education.
And it also adds to increasing the ranking of your profile. So LinkedIn will say, you know, you want to be aiming to get an all-star profile level, and not because we want to be all-stars, but just because that means you rank higher in search. So the more complete your profile, so if you have recommendations, endorsements, summary, headline, and photograph, they all count towards getting that percentage, a higher percentage, which means you'll rank higher on search.
Okay, so then your contacts will be able to see the recommendations. And that goes, you can see more or see less. So I think that's a really, if you're trying to get your marketing up and running, I think that's a really good tool. But again, use it selectively. You know, only approach those people who you know will feel comfortable doing that. A lot of people, some people may be feel uncomfortable, and I wouldn't recommend approaching everyone, just people who you probably think will say a nice word or two about you. Endorsements are a very similar topic. As Mo mentioned earlier, when you get up and running, LinkedIn will throw up suggestions. When you view someone's page, for example, when I viewed Michael Green's page, it'll say, does Michael have skill sets in the following, expertise in the following areas? When you set up your page, you will nominate what areas of expertise you have. You can nominate up to 30 or possibly even more. I tend to do about 20. I think if you over include, it sort of dilutes the effect of the ones that you've listed. But it will then take what you've included in your skills and expertise list and send that out to your contact saying, does does Justine have skills in medical malpractice or personal injury? And the person will then say, yes, she does, and then their face will be added or added to your profile. And the number on the left-hand side indicates how many endorsements you've got in that particular area. It's netiquette, if you like, if you get endorsements, to not necessarily endorse that person back, but to try and endorse on a regular basis. I don't do it on a weekly basis. As they pop up, I'll assess them on the basis of, well, do I think this person's got that skill set? Again, the way you endorse is a matter of integrity, and you should only be endorsing those people who you have a first-hand knowledge of their skills or expertise in that area. Yes, as Mo mentioned, also LinkedIn will suggest skills that a person might possess. Think very carefully if you don't, policy. What does policy mean? I'm getting some suggestions. This person has skills in policy. Don't select at random is I guess the bottom line. Quick tips for those visibility. Post positive contacts on a contact status update. This is the sort of, you'll become visible within your network by doing a few things that aren't all about content. It's about liking what someone else has posted. It's about congratulating a colleague on a job interview. I approach LinkedIn personally in a very generous manner. Whilst I don't want to be saturated or be in people's faces on a daily basis, I like to congratulate people on a job well done. There was a post just recently from one of my contacts who's a lawyer at Avant, and she'd written an excellent case summary, and I liked it, and also wrote a comment underneath, excellent case summary in my IMHO, in my humble opinion. I think if people see you as being a generous user, you're more likely to have that generosity reciprocated. So endorse and recommend as you see fit. Don't overdo it, but don't hold back. Don't post anything you wouldn't want your mother to read, or more appropriately, your employer, your prospective employer, your client, or your prospective client. Your LinkedIn profile is your professional representation, and you want people to see it's all the pieces of the puzzle put together. So ensure that what you do on a regular basis reflects that. And I think that means staying off social media on a Friday night after work drinks. We've covered, I think, basic and paid account. We don't personally recommend, I don't think there are sufficient benefits in a paid account to warrant it. Recruiters have a paid account. It's absolutely valuable for recruiters.
Yeah, so in addition to what we said about being able to, who's viewed your profile, in addition to that, the main differences are recruiters get paid accounts because it allows you to send in-mail, which is LinkedIn's email to anyone who's on LinkedIn, whereas you can only send messages to people actually in your network as a free account. What you can do on a free account, we have things called introductions. So you get up to 5 introductions on the free account where you can ask someone if you can see someone, you're connected to someone by, you have someone in common, you can ask your contact to introduce you to a third person, if there's some potentially business value for them. And people are happy to do that. People, the introducing person, it's quite, compliment almost, raises their profile, and they're usually happy to do the introduction for you. But you only get 5 of those on the free account, so you do get more on the paid account.
And in terms of email, I think it's just as easy to Google that person's work address and send them an email via your Outlook, so I don't think there's any real benefit in that.
So.
Okay, so thank you, Michael, for inviting us today. I hope you found the information of assistance. We are available should you need any assistance with developing your optimising your professional profile or training or developing content management plans. So please do let us know. Please.
Justine, on time, I'm sure everyone else in the room is, how much time do you advise spending each day on things that you like working?
Can I just repeat the question? Peter says he's time poor, as most people are. How much time would Mo and Justine spend each day on LinkedIn?
Daily, it'd be less than 10 minutes.
I'd say about half an hour, no more than half an hour. But that's I understand now that people, particularly as newspapers like The Age, etc., are subscription-based, when people need their 10 minutes of downtime from their work, they're now going to LinkedIn. A lot of firms have social media policies that don't allow their employees to access Facebook but do allow them to access LinkedIn. So people are going to LinkedIn when they need that 10 minutes of downtime. That's certainly what I do. But also because there is fantastic content being posted on my homepage. I find a lot of the articles that I'm interested in reading are on my LinkedIn homepage, and they're to do with topics on health law, topics on business development or entrepreneurship, which LinkedIn has obviously picked up on what it is that I'm reading and is sending me further content related to what my interests are. So I wouldn't recommend any more than half an hour though. Having said that, I like to post content at least twice a week. So in that half an hour is probably posting content. Last night I probably spent an hour. There's a particular area of interest. There's a new law being developed or proposed in New South Wales that's going to take children away from drug-affected mothers or mothers who are subject to domestic abuse, and I'm considering doing a post on that. So I spent an hour doing some research, but that's an exception, I think.
Yeah.
Doing a very detailed post is probably a once a month thing. So on a daily basis, between 10 and half.
Yeah, I mean,
half an hour.
I find I only need to post once every few weeks. Actually, if I see something of interest and it's useful to my network, I'll share it. But I don't post as frequently because I'm just trying to keep on the radar of my, as a freelancer in marketing, I just want to keep on the radar every now and again with people that I've worked with in the past and just pop up every now and again, let them know I'm still around. And that's all I need because I've got a very established sort of network that I'm looking to service, whereas Justine's much more in a growth business development phase.
Yeah, I'm trying to show people I know what I'm talking about. Whether I do that or not is another question.
Can I ask you a question about company pages? Because I get sort of queries from LinkedIn about your company page is looking a bit sparse or something like that. Can you just make a comment about the usefulness of company pages versus personal profiles?
Yeah. Company pages are a great way and a very low maintenance way of just pushing out your, say, news items that you might post to your website, pushing out to your network. So with a company page, it's very brief, summary paragraph of what your company does. You can go into more detail on specific services, but I'll be looking to get all your employees to follow that. So then when you have something that you want to say that you've done, maybe a big case, maybe just even relocating offices, you can post that as an item on your company page, a short item, and you can link it to your news item maybe on your corporate website, and that will automatically appear in the news feeds of anyone who's following your company page. And if your employees then like that or share that, that will then go to all their networks. So it's a really easy way of pushing out news information. It's like corporate news information.
For instance, Mo, would it be appropriate for Greens List to put on its company page information about this morning?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then if list members pick it up, like I know Sean would, push it out to all of his contacts.
Yep.
Any other questions?
How do you handle negative comments? Can people post negative things to your profile?
No, you can elect not to accept. everything that comes, endorsements, comments, etc., recommendations, it's up to you to elect whether or not to accept it.
You get a notification that somebody's got a comment,
yeah,
and then you can say whether it goes on to you.
Well, it will say XYZ has recommended you, you know, then they'll give you a link, view the recommendation, then it has an option, accept or don't accept.
Okay. And they won't know, you just won't
No.
accept it, it won't.
No, and like they also, someone doesn't know if you disconnect them or remove them from your contact list.
If you're posting something which, say in your case, is relevant to your legal business, but completely irrelevant to the people involved in your communications business, can you segment that so that you don't irritate the communications people?
No, no. In terms of segmenting special interest areas, that's where you use your groups. But no, Justine, in terms of the general posting news items, it will go to everyone in our network, and you can't segment. You can choose, actually, when you post items, if you want to just share something with a specific people. So you can just share it with, I've seen something, I just want to send that to Michael. You can choose to do that. But you
can tag, you know, all your contacts, and if you tag them, so you've set up, in effect, groups, can you use that to your tags to send that post to?
Not at the moment, but I imagine it's a useful thing to do,
Yeah.
and because that is quite a new piece of functionality, I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the not too distant future, because that would be very useful.
Yeah.
In fact, you might be able to do it now. You might be able to do it now. I have to check.
It seems to me that's an easy
yeah.
Mm.
I think we might leave it there. It is 9 o'clock. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, of course, but particularly please join me in thanking Justine and Mo for a very informative